Welcome back, trainers, to the premier mirror match of the Regigigas Wheezing Cup. My name is Gabby Snyder, joined here by my amazing co-commentator, Gabby Snyder. Gabby, how's it going? Oh, thanks, Gabby. I know it's been a really long time since we've been on the desk with each other, but I just gotta say, thank you so much for having me. I've been having an amazing blast here over at the Regigigas Tournament of Champions, which I'm pretty sure I just changed the name again, but we won't tell anybody. And it's really interesting to see this matchup that we have coming up on screen, just because it is a virtual mirror match, which is a term I like to use when a majority of the Pokemon on both teams are identical. You'll notice that both Felipe and other Gabby, Gabby's in the room here, very strange, are running Regigigas, Kanto Weezing, Tapu Fini, Rotom Heat, and Urshifu, but Gabby very smartly left the Kartana at home and is instead running a Regieleki, which may have been key. Instead, we're actually just going to have a mirror of mirrors. So Gabby, why don't you take it away? Yeah, thank you, Gabby, for that introduction. Now, there are two Regigigases and two Weezings on the field for both of these trainers. We did see the neutralizing gas on Gabby's Weezing go first, which is usually a good indication that it is time to see some interesting plays here, because I have never had to click buttons while doing this before. It is very hard to think through your turn. Oh my god. But anyways, Gabby very smartly switched out her other Gabby very smartly switched out her Weezing for the Urshifu, most likely trying to get a positioning advantage against her opponent's side of the field. But her opponent Felipe, not deterred, going straight for the Dynamax onto the Regigigas on their side of the field. Now, Regigigas is something that loves Dynamax because not only does it increase its base power, with its buddy Weezing next to it and the neutralizing gas ability, that slow start ability that otherwise is a deterrent to the Regigigas having its stats in half. Wow. Good commentary. It is no longer in play. So both of these Regigigas, titans on the field, really are going to be doing some explosive amounts of damage as we see the first max strike fired into the Urshifu that Gabby switched in, unfortunately going to take it right out and lower both of the Pokemon on other Gabby's side of the field by one stage in their speed. Gabby follows up with a max strike of her own, connecting with the opposing Regigigas, choosing maybe to target the threat on the other side of the field rather than that Weezing. It might have been an interesting play here because the opposing Weezing is now free to go for a Will-O-Wisp onto Gabby's Regigigas, and it connects, burning it and just lowering its attack by a lot. So Gabby really being punished for that switch, unfortunately. She probably didn't recognize the fact that both of these Pokemon are most likely identical. Could have been a speed tie there. Nobody knows. I'm assuming it was. Though, interestingly enough, we do see the neutralizing gas come back into play for her Weezing, and she's not sure if that is just a bizarre mechanic or if that's something that she should have noticed sooner. Anyways, if I were in Gabby's shoes this turn, I would probably forego the damage on her Regigigas entirely and instead focus on what she can do to disrupt her opponent's side of the field. And in this case, that would most likely be getting rid of the opposing Weezing as quickly as possible. And maybe, if she does have Will-O-Wisp, considering a burn on the opposing Regigigas as well. Thanks to the max strike speed drops from the previous turn, Regigigas is burned prior to going for a second max strike, this time into Gabby's Regigigas. Oh my god. I need to take a breath, but I can't. Taking some damage in recoil. Max Quake going into the opposing Kanto Weezing, revealing Shucka Berry, which is certainly an interesting pick. Gabby would have assumed Focus Sash, but, this is why Gabby's behind the desk and she's not playing. Oh my god. Oh, bless you. Shoutouts to Sigma. I don't know why I was gonna say that, but... Anyways, it was a bit of a slower turn, not as much damage coming out onto the field as previous turns, but really the important thing to note here is that Gabby was able to successfully successfully even up the momentum, even if it was just by a little bit, by getting the burn on the opposing Regigigas. Now, we're still in a very bizarre spot. You do have to remember that other Gabby has lost one of her Pokemon, whereas her opponent, Felipe, has all four. And really, it could be the early loss of that Urshifu that causes her to lose this game. But for now, it looks like Gabby is just going forward on the full offensive. Felipe going for the Protect on their Weezing, probably not wanting to get KO'd just yet while Regigigas' Dynamax is still in play. Gabby smartly targeting around that Protect, going for a Max Strike, just barely missing the KO on the opposing Regigigas. Could be within range for a KO from burn damage. It is hard to tell with the Dynamax in play. Sludge Bomb into the protecting Kanto Weezing. So now that that turn has finally wound down, the 3 turns of Dynamax for these Titans is officially over. Regigigas on the opposing side of the field is officially 1 burn damage turn away from KO. Gabby, on the other hand, is doing okay. You know, she doesn't really have much of an advantage in the sense of the traditional sense of the word, but she has a Weezing that is faster than the Regigigas on the opposing side of the field, I think, and it has high horsepower to deal some big damage to the opposing Weezing. Just kidding, she is not faster, as Felipe's Regigigas will outspeed her Weezing for the knockout. Gabby matching the play from the opposing Regigigas, who will take a moment to knock itself out with a Life Orb. Damage, recoil, high horsepower does connect with the opposing Weezing, does do not enough damage to pick up that KO. It's just mirrors all the way down here, folks. These trainers just had such a similar start to their team, but because other Gabby foolishly switched out her Urshifu turn 1, switched in her Urshifu turn 1, and and instead of going for the burn on the opposing Regigigas, she now is at a significant disadvantage. That all being said, she does have an opportunity to bring it back if she can find a way to ensure this Tapu Fini will be able to make the maximum of its time on the field. How can she do that? She can avoid getting flinched by a potential fake out from the Incineroar with a follow-up Sludge Bomb and then trying to remove the Weezing from the field in the meantime. If she's able to do that, that'll also bring back the Misty Surge, which could come in handy depending on what kind of Pokemon Felipe has in the back. But I think more importantly than anything, it will actually bring the Pokemon count to a tie. 2 versus 2, as high horsepower is enough to pick up the KO onto the opposing Weezing. Tapu Fini's Misty Surge will activate. Gabby's Regigigas is unfortunately now rendered useless, so this is going to be Tapu Fini's fight to win. And, you know, looking at Felipe's perspective on this game, he certainly does have the advantage going into these final turns. Regigigas is going to be KO'd by Life Orb damage any second now. It's curious why he didn't target the Fake Out into the Regigigas. Definitely, Tapu Fini would seem like the bigger threat, but when your last Pokemon is a Kartana against the Tapu Fini, I mean, there's only so much that the Tapu Fini can do in that situation. If Gabby were to win this game, she really only would have one option, and that would be to try and shut down that Kartana so it couldn't attack. And mind you, her opponent could predict this and go for a simple knockout into the Regigigas and, you know, not risk a double protect or anything silly like that. That would be really silly, but... but if she, I don't know, had Ice Punch and could like go for a freeze or something, you know, those are the kind of plays that we see win Pokemon games. And in this case, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, you know, shout outs to Felipe. Did not switch in the Kartana for the Weezing, which was really a key turn if you go back to the beginning stages of this game, and more importantly, kept the Kartana around for the end when any Pokemon that Gabby had that could have countered it, which admittedly could have only been the Rotom Heat in this case, would have been removed from the field. So Felipe will be taking today's crown of Regigigas Kanto Weezing Mirror Champion, but I'm sure Gabby will be back to try and reclaim the prize in a future game. So thank you so much, Felipe and other Gabby, for letting us feature your match. I know that playing on stream can be very nerve-wracking sometimes, but that's not all, folks. We're going to be taking it to a interview with the winner of the Regigigas Mirror match, Felipe, real soon. So if you haven't already, make sure to check out #PlayPokemon, join in that conversation, and we'll be right back with that interview after a short break.